This will be recorded, and every day I will send out the recordings to you. I'll post it as a private video on YouTube, which will be really easy to access. There are 4 days. Each day is going to cover a different facet of this practice. You are welcome to disregard anything that isn't interesting to you. So there's no mandatory curriculum. I really want you to go where you feel called. But I'm offering each day as a progressive exploration of consciousness as I see, feel, and now teach it. And this is aimed at the personal practice. So many of you do relational work with me, where I really emphasize the fact that we're here together and all the things that we can relate about and how valuable that is. And that's all true. But in this retreat specifically, we're going to be spending a lot of time doing meditation, looking at personal work. This definitely will translate to your relational practice, but we won't be doing any triads or anything like that. We will be looking at how you can work with these different layers or levels of consciousness in yourself, kind of creating a map of development as well. Lastly, I'm going to try to avoid teaching techniques. There are so many techniques to engage with all of these levels. I think the thing that's most exciting to me is that you practice or you focus on these different levels of development because you are curious. Curiosity, desire, personal drive, that is much, I think, to me, more sustainable than a technique. Um, it has you drive, desire, curiosity will have you return your attention again and again and again. Technique may do the same as well, but you don't need to force it. You just go where you feel like going. So this is like a tapas. I'm going to put out a bunch of different elements of consciousness, which may or may not interest you or catch your motivation, and you can experiment with them here as well. Um, and then in terms of ongoing development, how do we support your development through this year? We can look at that moving forward. I think the biggest challenge in realizing anything in consciousness is keeping our attention there. When we can keep our attention with any level of development, growth and change can happen really rapidly. The places in which we don't grow or we don't awaken to are the places in which we either don't know to put our focus or have a difficult time sustaining our focus. And so we're going to look at what are the ways that we can invite our focus to explore consciousness in ways that we might not normally do so. So in this retreat specifically, we're going to be sitting, we're going to have maybe 2 periods of silence each day and lots of time for questions, which may both answer your questions or help you, but also inspire the others to grow and explore. Any questions or comments before we go any further about this? We have a nice symmetrical about 4x4 grid where you fill out my screen. I can see all of you so nicely. We couldn't have, I don't think, any more people. Otherwise, somebody would be on the next page. Everything's feeling nice and perfect to start. Okay, so this I described as a progressive practice. So we're going to start with a meditation. I'm going to guide you, and I'm going to invite some questions. We'll sit in a practice for 20 or 30 minutes. I'll take some questions, we'll take a break, and then we'll kind of do that again. Okay. So consciousness is a spectrum. I'm going to mute everybody as well. So just unmute yourself if you have a question. Consciousness is a spectrum, and we're going to be moving through this spectrum progressively. And so in this meditation, We're only going to go sort of one step deeper, one step into this spectrum. So the first thing is our focus is our tool. Our focus is what we use to explore our experience. So I want to invite you by just to start by feeling your breathing. Relaxing into each exhale, feeling the weight of your body. Just allowing yourself to settle into your physical experience. And the physical world is, sort of three-dimensional. It has all this depth and all this richness. But I want you to picture it as a layer. It's just one layer in our experience. And we're going to shift our focus from our physical experience to our body as a field of energy. So instead of noticing so much that my body is a solid object, I'm going to turn my attention more to the flow of energy through my nervous system, which means my sensations are moving, my emotions are moving, and my thoughts are moving. So yes, my body is a physical object, but in this other layer, my body is a flow of energy, always in motion. And just noticing how our focus can shift to highlight this quality of our body more than the weight or the fullness, the boundary of our physical body, to highlight the movement of energy. And what I would point out is everything is always moving and everything moves on its own. My sensations are moving, my emotions are moving, my thoughts are moving. I don't have to make any of this move. My body is alive, has a life of its own. So we could think about our sensations and emotions and thoughts as being different from each other. They are. And at the same time, they create one nervous system, one field of energy, one experience of movement. So every time that we are focusing on the movement of our sensations, the movement of our emotions, the movement of our thoughts, when we feel this, we are paying attention to this energetic dimension of reality. So in our meditation today and in our work today, what we're going to do is hold our focus here. We're going to hold our focus and track what's happening for us at this level of movement. Now we can hold our focus in a couple ways. We can hold our focus because we have some sort of discipline that says, I must hold my focus here. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. But more, I think, of more value, I can learn to appreciate, explore, and be curious about this quality of movement through my nervous system. I just look, I use the curiosity I have about how I'm feeling, how energy moves through me, and just hold this in my focus. So we're going to sit in silence in a moment, however long that moment is. But I just want to invite any questions or comments so far that may need to be asked before we sit in silence about what I've said so far and what you're noticing. There certainly don't have to be questions. There'll be time for questions later. Okay. So again, in this meditation, in this period of meditation, we're just going to allow our focus to rest with the movement through our experience. Sensations we have, the emotions we have, the feelings we have. And as an activity, if it's helpful, I just invite you to soften into this movement. To see everything that happens, every thought, every feeling, every sensation, just soften into it. Allowing more movement, softening into the movement, relaxing actively to everything that moves through you. And we're going to sit now for about 20, 25 minutes. And when we're finished, we can see how it is to sustain this sort of focus. Okay, sitting in silence. Yeah, very gently invite you to return here. You're welcome to keep your eyes closed and stay in meditation if you'd like. Let me take you out of a good place if you're in a good place. What I would like to hear from all of you is what happens to you when I invite you to track or stay connected to the flow of energy through your nervous system. If you hold your focus here or return your focus here, where does that take you? What happens to you? So you can share a little bit, a lot, or obviously nothing, but I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear what you experience, what happens.
Hey, Blaze, yeah, I can jump in.
Yeah, please.
Um, yeah, I found that an interesting meditation, and maybe a little bit of a challenging one for me. Uh, Coming into the meditation, I think had a lot, I had a lot going on. Transitioned relatively quickly from work, and found that I started from a place of having a lot of energy, kind of like up here, sort of like in the cerebral area,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of took me out of the meditation quite quickly. When I focused on the energy moving through my body and my nervous system, I found there was quite a lot of it, and it was a bit overwhelming. And so I found I kind of was like popping out of a place of focus, moving upwards into thought, because of that. The energy was quite intense, and as I was able to slow into it, I felt like there was still quite a bit of energy in my body. I could feel my heart pounding, and and that was a bit of an uncomfortable sensation. I was tracking some of these movement sensations in my body, and I don't know if I ever fully got into a place of relaxation or kind of like comfort in that meditation, as I was really focusing on these things that were alive and moving, and a lot of those were a bit uncomfortable, and that
Mm-hmm.
was yeah, my experience through that.
Yeah, it's wonderful that you share that. I'm sure this is a resonant experience for many of us. And if I invite that, so one of the things that you can do is to soften into the energy.
Hmm.
How accessible or feasible does that seem to you?
I think that did happen, and I remember like in that meditation that prompt to soften did return to me. I remember you mentioning that at the beginning and trying to hold space for myself. And I had one moment in that meditation where I was able to kind of like move out a little bit, kind of like still hold my
Hmm.
like the awareness of my body, my energy presently, but kind of like move out a bit and see it more holistically. And I felt like a softening around it, which was nice. And certainly like time and just sitting with it and then returning back to the experience helps. So it does feel like accessible, although it's not necessarily like an immediate thing.
Right. We're going to have a second chance to practice this. I'm going to say a bunch of things and other people are going to share, and we can maybe come back to
Great.
see how it is for you. But thank you for contributing.
Yeah, thank you.
Others, just when you focus on the energy that is moving through you, and I invite you to soften into it, what happens for you?
I'll speak. I found that um, I'm not sure how far into the time period it happened when I remembered your word soften,
Mhm.
and um, and everything that came after I was aware of softening was a message that energy does not require my focus, has nothing to do with focus. It's independent of focus. And that's when it started getting really fun. Um, just watching the energy, watching thoughts, feelings, sensations, really seeing for the first time maybe what aliveness means.
Mhm.
So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, beautiful. I'll speak to some of the things that your insights there, and in a moment. I just will collect some other perspectives on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else when we focus on this movement and we say,
Yeah, I'd like to say something. For me, it was like this. I kind of quickly got to a point inside of me where I just relaxed and I kind of lost focus of, or the intended focus of everything what happened in me. In the beginning I was with intention going with curiosity and relaxing, and over time and something funny happened. I'm sitting next to my heater and it's doing some noise, and it was kind of going on, and then I was just in that moment I was thinking of relaxing and leaning into it, and then the sound seemed to soften as well. So that was like very funny.
mhm,
And then my son is sitting in the next room, and he is gambling and so making some noise. And I was pretty surprised because usually I get quickly tense when when he's angry, or and now I had this clear intention of just relaxing and leaning into it and be curious, and everything together brought me to this place inside of me I was mentioning, where like the energy was like settling down, and I was like spreading, and then I could just sit there and watch everything what happened, and then over time I was getting a little tired, and I seemed to lose focus,
mhm,
but at the same time I was still present, so that was an interesting experience. And at some point, everything was just like pulsating. I don't know if this is an English word. In German, it's pulsieren. So
it's an
yeah,
English word.
but yeah, I think it's very similar.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's it. I enjoyed it.
beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you. And maybe one more before I sort of sum up what I'm hearing and teach into it. Anyone else want to share?
I guess I could say, oh,
Well,
Marcia,
maybe
go
time
ahead.
for both. Marcia, go first, and
Oh.
then we'll come back to Anne. Go ahead, Marcia.
Well, this was a very interesting experience. I would have to probably say for Richard and me, as soon as you started to get into for us to get into the meditation, there must be some construction going on in some other apartment in our building. And there was this constant drilling. I mean, that's why I got up and got my earbuds. It's just constant and loud. And I was thinking, okay, this is what it is. I can allow this to happen. It's all coming in from hearing. I'm just going to let it flow. It was just, it was just, I don't know, maybe you have some suggestions. As I was okay with it. And I see you, Richard, you put on those headphones. The focus was all on this drilling, but it kind of was falling into a wide open space. And it didn't seem to, I don't know. I mean, I just sat with it. I just sat and
Yeah.
I was conscious of my breathing and it was okay. I mean, maybe you have some thoughts on, when something's so intrusive just pops up there.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it sounds like you did great. I certainly wouldn't suggest that you meditate next to intense, obtrusive sounds as a way to sharpen your spiritual practice. I think in general, it's better to meditate in places that make it easy to relax. That's the point of it.
Not my
Um,
choice.
but given that it's already happening, what I'm hearing you say is you were able to relax into it and let it move.
Interesting. Of course, it stopped now. It's just a little in the background. But as soon as we started, it was so intense.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'll speak to that in a minute, Marcia. And one more before we.
Just very quickly, I- I've been not feeling much contact with fundamental well-being, as it's sometimes called, but
Yeah.
the noise of my husband rattling around in the next room, when I was thinking of it as a field, trying to soften into the sensation as a field, was irritating, disturbing, and then it felt like the noises he was making. I don't know. It's kind of like the effect of music. In a melody, your emotions rise and fall with the beautiful tones. It started to feel like that, like it wasn't so intrusive anymore. And it was just, the sounds had an emotional impact, like the ebbs and flows of music.
Mhm.
And also, I'm coordinating the Christmas bird count here and getting ready to submit my report to the Audubon Society. And I was thinking about the birders in our neighborhood who I have to touch base with. And all of a sudden, thinking of the field, I felt like I feel closer to the house finches that Cole saw and my little patch of forest here. And it felt like more of a continuous field, not just for me
Beautiful.
and the humans here, but we are a community on many levels, including the critters. So that's it.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'll speak to all of those things. I think together is energy has to move. That when we meditate, we realize to stop energy moving, the only way we can do that is to contract. So if we are looking to have a good experience, the energy is going to have to move. Whatever it is, whether it's our thinking, whether it's a sensation in our heart, whether it's the sound of a leaf blower or a drill, it's going to have to move. This is what energy does. So meditating at the level of the nervous system or at the level of energy comes with the recognition that to have a better experience or to work with our experience, there's going to have to be more movement rather than less. So if Jordy, for example, says, I have a lot of energy, that energy is never going to go away. We're never going to have less energy. The only thing is we're going to have a softer presence that allows that energy to move more. Similarly, when Marcia says there's this really intense noise that you can't control, the noise is going to have to move through us. There's no way to block it out, but if I let it move through me, I can get some relief because I soften into it. So this is the law. Energy moves. Eric.
Can you maybe, it's interesting that so many of us had these environmental variables, and for me, it wasn't just environmental, but there was kind of interpersonal, emotional, other noise too. Can you maybe speak a little bit to softening into accepting the thing which we think we don't want versus dissociating and disappearing as a coping mechanism?
Yeah.
Could I
So
jump onto that for just a second? Because I want, hi. I wanted to say that there was also noise in my environment. And what I noticed was, um, so first I noticed like there is no distinction between a thought and a feeling and a sensation.
Mhm.
And then I noticed, but here is the land of aversion and attraction. That when I hear the wind chime, softening is easier.
Mhm.
When the tree is in my back neighbor's backyard is being chopped, I contract. And so I was playing with that. Anyway, I think that adds a little bit. That's enough to
Absolutely.
say.
So it's much easier, maybe we could say, or more, don't have to teach so much, softening into pleasant sensations, even though that is important anyways, as it is unpleasant sensations. But Eric, the difference, if I were to make it kind of concrete, the difference is that in our meditation, we are we are intending to ground ourselves in our body. So if I'm not moving away, like out of my body or into a softer place. I'm moving towards my body. So in our opening meditation, we start by feeling the pull of gravity. So I think one way to really visualize how we can stay grounded and not be dissociating is simply just to be relaxing down into our body, following the pull of gravity into our body. And as long as our focus is in our body, whatever kind of softening or response we have is really welcome. So, so for example, I might feel like, oh, actually, the sounds don't bother me. And wonderful. I notice the sensations in my body just through my whole nervous system as I experience that. Or conversely, not to read into what Anne's saying, but I might have all these emotional responses to the sound. I soften into those. As long as as our focus is really staying connected to our body, then I think that's sort of the core intention. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, that might mean I feel very angry. It might feel I feel uncomfortable. It might feel like I forget about the sound altogether or I merge with the sound. It doesn't actually matter how our body responds. But this is our intention is that I will just keep coming down, sort of expanding my focus into more and more of my body.
Yeah, I mean, what I think what's interesting, um, in a gauntlet thrown sort of manner is, when judgment comes into it. Kristen talks about dealing with anger in the other room, or, Anne's husband doing whatever he's doing, or Jana referring to a tree being cut down. And like, who
Yeah.
wants a tree to be cut down? Like
Yeah.
that feels horrible. So, it's like it feels like the opportunity, the invitation is to not be less here because there's stuff that's judged as undesirable
Yes.
either in here or out there.
Yes. And again, I don't suggest that we should meditate in places where things are happening that we don't like. I really encourage you to find the nicest spot to meditate. But as a general principle, we want more energy to come up. Again, I'm going to speak to this in a little bit after the break. We want to move towards the body. We want more energy to come up, whether that energy feels good or not. And so if we give this kind of meditation or a path, how do we develop in our experience with our nervous system? It's more. It's always more of my body, more of my energy, more of my experience. And so when there are disturbing things that come up, like that energy that's arising in us, this means we have more energy. And if I can soften into it, as I soften into my energy, it moves because that's what energy does. Energy moves. The problem with anger or resentment or shame is not the movement of anger, while that may be uncomfortable. The problem, as I see it, is when we store energy in our body that's not moving. That's where we really get into trouble in life. So this process of meditating or softening into anger means that I'm often going to be welcoming things that I have stored in my body that haven't been moving, that are going to get activated, whether that's because something's happening now or nothing could be happening. I'd just be sitting here, and we're going to soften into them and let them to move more. And then again, after the break, I'm gonna sort of speak a little bit more about why we would want to do that, what the rules are that says that all these things are really welcome to move and why more energy is good. Anyone else before we take a short break? Lisa.
I'm reflecting on how generally there's an experience of being a bridge between experience, like the movement of energy, everything that's happening, and awareness or space or love, where all of that is moving in. And so the I that focuses is not really what holds all of this experience. It's awareness. And so I can be in that bridge position where I can like use my consciousness as a focusing,
Mm-hmm.
or just recede into the space, into the background, into awareness. And then it's like a loving dance. Awareness is delighting in everything that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be aversion, or it could be
Mm-hmm.
judgment or whatever. But that experience is very tangible for me as like a movement or a dance or and it's thick. It's like it's a texture of love. It's so loving. So I just wanted to add that into the conversation.
Absolutely. And a couple things just to everyone. Our third day, we will be talking about awareness or space as a quality. And Lisa, what I would love to speak after we take a break about this thickness that you describe, where the quality is love. Again, today I haven't used the word yet, but energy and love are paired together today. We're going to speak a little bit about it after the break. Yeah, but broadly speaking, as Jenna said, and as I hear you saying, Lisa, that our thoughts, our feelings, our sensations are not, while they are distinct, they're not separate. They exist as one thing in one place, this sense of a field. So as we learn to relax into more and more of our energy, there's going to be sort of our body becomes a kind of field of energy. And a field of energy is different than a physical object. It's softer. It doesn't have the same level of density or solidity. It doesn't have a physical boundary. It's a substance. It's a felt sense substance, which we can call energy. So the reason, I guess I'm getting into it now, but the reason that we want to relax into everything is because this everything is going to build into a stronger and stronger field. So energy has to move. Can't stop it. It hurts to stop it, or we delay the pain if we stop it. And this energy is going somewhere. All energy has a destination, and its destination, when it gets to move, is this field, this substance, this energetic substance. And it builds. The more that we feel, the more that we allow to move, this substance grows in strength. And so, Jordy, when you say it's hard to focus and I have a lot of energy, I think what we can look as a path is that if we allow this energy actually to relax and soften and move more, that your field, your nervous system field will grow in strength, and it becomes easier to focus. It becomes easier to rest. When energy moves, it becomes easier to rest into the body. So this development of a field is what we are going to spend our second half today on. We're going to take a little break, and then I'll come right back to talking about it. I want to make sure we get a break in because we're going to sit again after this. So we'll all be back in, let's call it 6 minutes. 6 minutes. Hey, almost ready. So close.
Hey, Blaze, before you get started, I have a thought, sensation, emotion coming up in me that I would like to share when it's appropriate. Would you like me to start?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, go for it.
I would like to acknowledge, it's very alive here for us right now, but I'd like to acknowledge the sticky wicket of more. You know, the energy just needs to move and more. And, you know, I appreciate, Jordy, to me, your comment was just about how we haven't learned, we have an aversion to what am I trying to say? We had an experience in our family last night where the anger came out and furniture is broken and people were threatened and, you know, stomping and yelling and screaming, and now there is a lot of energy. And then there was a lot of energy. And I know that little place where it's building, building, building. I don't know how to express it. And then there is actually, to me, there's a little bit of a softening, and then the rage comes out. And so the skill, I want to acknowledge that sticky wicket. It is not just so simple as soften and let the energy move more. Like, no, there's a whole societal, special appreciation for how to listen and how to move it and be with what, you know, that's all.
So much of the work that I do is relational, and it is about expressing and being received and the relational dynamics that exist, the feelings that we have. And this is where I spend most of my time because I think it's a particularly effective way to support energy to move. And as we've talked about, I think I talked about in an event last year, bigger, like all the experience that you're describing, that doesn't necessarily mean that energy is moving out and creating a field and that our nervous system is growing, that the field is growing. And I think we all know in ourselves and in other people experiences where really big things happen where there isn't actually a stronger field. It doesn't support the field to grow. So one thing you will find as a commonality among all of those experiences, the ones that don't work, is they tend to go really fast. They go faster. Things intensify, not just in volume or in energy level, but in speed. Things get bigger, but they also get out of control. They get faster. We kind of forget where we are. We regret the things that we say or did. We later, as we come down, we go, obviously I shouldn't have done that, but I was sort of out of control. I just kind of got taken on a wave. And as a broad expression, for me, this is actually when energy can't move, when it overwhelms the nervous system, when my field cannot hold the feelings that I'm having, I become overwhelmed. I express out of my container rather than into my field. And so this is a place in which often having a relational practice is really, really useful, because we really look at like, where is the place in which the energy doesn't actually make the container of my nervous system bigger and more robust and make me more connected to the world? Where is this becoming overwhelmed? Do I speak like almost out of my conditioning? Where do I act in a way that I regret? Where do things get out of control? This is going to happen. This has happened to me an infinite number of times. And again, we can look at that, but specific to today, what makes bigger and more different than that is that we are going slower. First off, we're slowing down into the energy. And we are supporting not just what I'm feeling to be spoken or expressed as action, but I actually want the intensity that I'm feeling, whether it's whatever it is, it's just as Jordy spoke about in his head. I want the intensity to actually move out, to dissolve or relax into the rest of my field. So where we're going to start often is I have this part of myself, this massive energy of intensity. It could be rage, could be sadness, could be frozen, whatever it is. It's going to join the field. It's not going to remain a separate part. It's going to dissolve or relax and to be integrated into my nervous system. So there are limitations to what we can do in this practice today specifically. And again, when big things happen, often there's lots to look at. But I would suggest this is a distinction. So there are many things in this world that are done which are not helpful or don't create a bigger field. And you can look in your own life or in your newspaper to find out the actions people take that don't create more well-being. But if we take the essence of that experience, before the action is taken, before the conditioned behavior, before the things that we say that we later regret, if we take the essence of that experience and we track it through our nervous system, what we will feel is that there is energy, there is aliveness in our bodies. There's no way around that. And this energy is going to have to move. And so when we sit with pockets of intensity in ourselves, what we're looking to have them do is, as we soften into it, they're going to be more a part of life rather than less a part of life. So when I feel separate, when I feel like I'm not heard, when I feel unsafe, when life feels dangerous, I have energy in myself that is not a part of life. It's not a part of the field. This is the essence of separation. So I can have anger or shame or sadness. I can have some personal experience or some personal emotion that it's going to be in a contracted state, and it's going to be separate from the rest of my nervous system. This is what inner conflict is. If Jordy, just to keep using you as an example, but if I want to relax, but I actually have all this energy, I have this sort of subtle conflict between myself. I have parts. My nervous system is fragmented. I have parts. I have different things. I want to be, I think about my wife. I want to be kind to you, but I'm also angry at the same time. I have this inner conflict. So what I'm suggesting broadly is that the way to resolve this conflict or the tension or the problem is that the energy that I'm holding in my body is going to have to become a part of the rest of my field. It's going to have to join or be integrated into life. Maybe that's another word you can still use instead of bigger. instead of something just being bigger, it actually has to become a part of life. And as Lisa was saying, is as we do this, we will realize that there is a kind of law, there is an ethic that says all energy is welcome as part of life. This is what love is. Love is the realization that everything that I experience, every thought, every feeling, every sensation belongs, is a part of this field. That's actually where it belongs. That is its home. There is no feeling, there is no sensation, there is no experience that does not belong in this field. And then the challenging things we have in life are pretty much always the experiences which energy isn't being integrated into the field, or something is being expressed that can't be, either the way it's being expressed or the way it's being received. It can't do that. That's where we have pain. That's where we do not feel loved. That's where we do not feel safe or received. So in our personal practice, this is what we are endeavoring to do, is to welcome all parts of my life into one integrated nervous system. And the more that this energy is able to express itself, to move, to become a part of life, the less those sort of negative qualities or limiting qualities express themselves. So, Jana, just if you just check in, how does all that sound and feel addressing what you've said?
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Nuance of moving into life, and also thinking about, well, what is an integrated field? What is our field? What does it mean to move it out in a way that it's still, it's still here, it's still welcome. Yeah, thank you.
So specific to our personal practice, what this means is, as I track my thoughts, as I track my feelings, as I track my sensations, I want to let my body be the place that holds. And even more, as I get a sense of this field, I want to let my field do the holding. So this goes from I hold my feelings, I hold myself using tension, to it's actually the field that holds my energy. There already is a way to allow all parts of myself to be together. That gravity is love. It doesn't require force. So what we're doing is we're scanning through our bodies to find extra force, which is contraction, tension. And I'm learning to relax the tension and allow my field to do the holding. Now, as Lisa said, this can be experienced as I let awareness do the holding. That's true too. Again, this is really dynamic, but it's also true that it's the field of energy where all of my experiences belong. Every feeling, every thought, every sensation belongs in this field, and I learn to let the field do the work. I learn to let my nervous system hold itself without tension. So this is what we are going to do. Again, I'll make some space for any questions. We're just going to keep softening and notice that when energy moves through me, it creates this kind of container, this substance of aliveness through my whole body. And this is where every part of me belongs as part of this. Now, when difficult things come up, again, we may need, I absolutely suggest getting relational support. But the basic framework is whether I get relational support, or I'm with somebody who can really see me, or whether I relax in meditation, the path is the same. The things that I hold separate in myself, that I use force to contain, are going to be softened, and they are going to be here in the field. They're going to be alive. They will not ever move less, but it's the amount of space and the amount of connection that these parts of ourselves have that is going to change. So negativity is just energy that's in a small space. Positivity is energy that's connected to the rest of my field and becomes part of a bigger space. So this is what we are doing. So no matter what comes up in the next half hour, you have the potential to welcome more of your energy into your field and to create a field of energy that has more strength, that's stronger, that has more energy in it, that's more alive, and actually that can tolerate more charge. And just to speak a little bit more, in children, in our developmental process, you will see children constantly have feelings that they can't tolerate. Anger, sadness, grief, and they will rely upon other people to be with them. Again, that's what we do so much in our relational processes, feeling together and supporting energy to be integrated. This is what I do with my children from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep. And what we look at it, this is how children grow. This is how children get mature. It's because their nervous systems get bigger. It's not just because they get older. It's because all of those experiences of being scared of the dark or being angry that you don't have a toy, because all of those experiences get integrated into their nervous systems. They grow up. Their nervous systems grow. And so for all of us, we may need support to go back to earlier levels of our development and really integrate those experiences more actively. And again, that's what I spend most of my time doing. But today, to the amount that we can, we're just going to do that within ourselves. What I'm going to say is, I am the place where all parts of myself are welcome. This is what love says. All parts of me are welcome. There is nothing that I could feel or experience that doesn't get to be part of my field. This will be our resolve will be tested in the face of uncomfortable experiences or difficult experiences or experiences that have been rejected for whatever reason. But this is our practice. And as we go, I just invite you to see how it feels in your heart, which really knows about this, when I say, all parts of me are welcome, all parts of me are good. Just to know how this is, to notice how this is reflected in your heart. This is the part of the body that really knows this language of energy, that knows that all parts are good, and that we can support to open and speak this language. So we're going to sit again in silence for about 20 minutes, and I'll leave some space at the end for people to speak. Okay. Just as always, as we go into meditation, as I spoke to Eric, just making sure that we really sink into our bodies. Again, you can use your exhale. You can feel the weight of gravity, really grounding yourself physically in your body, giving you access to more of your nervous system. By connecting to your body physically, you are connecting to your body energetically. You're grounding yourself in your nervous system. And my instructions are to be curious and explore, but also keep sinking down and just soften into everything that happens. Okay. And very gently invite you back here. If you're in a place you want to stay, don't leave. You stay right there. So there is this essential feature which we are exploring, which is that energy is moving. Its life cycle is to move. That's what it does. And as you study, as you stay with and explore where it is trying to move to, what its intentions and aims are, you will realize, you come to see that all energy is trying to unify. All sensations, all emotions, all life experiences are moving to create one unified field of experience. That's their satisfaction. That's their path. That's where they're going. And we, as loving human beings, this is our mission. This is our sort of spiritual purpose. One dimension of our spiritual purpose is to be the place where all parts of myself are unified, are one. And Anne at one point said, that when we're focusing on energy, or when we're not in fundamental well-being. And I agree that the domain of energy is not about a constant state of fundamental well-being. It's a very relative state of well-being. Progressively, the more unified my energy is, the stronger the sense of love is. And from this comes a sense of well-being. When my energy field is fragmented, when my nervous system is fragmented, there is not a sense of well-being. So what our imperative or our ethic is here is to do the very challenging thing of welcoming all parts of ourselves to exist and move, which means that we have to feel them, we have to soften into them, and no matter how unpleasant, how pleasant, we have to allow them to do what they want to do, which is essentially to be a part of life, to be a part of our consciousness, to exist. All of my energy was created to exist, and my job is to fulfill that, no matter how challenging. So that when you sit as you have, and you allow movement through your nervous system, your field, your nervous system is getting stronger. The flow of energy creates like an electrical device. It means you can tolerate more energy. You have the infrastructure of your nervous system is growing and getting stronger. And this is progressive. Every feeling, every sensation, everything that you welcome into yourself allows the field that is your nervous system to grow. And this means you have more capacity. This capacity will always be put to use in integrating more parts of life that are trying to make their way into this unified field. So in the personal context, what this means, again, sort of speaking to what Eric is saying, is that the more that my nervous system grows in its sort of strength and capacity, the more I learn, I can turn towards every part of myself and actively welcome it into my world. So at first we get overwhelmed by things are difficult, things do not integrate particularly easily. And we labor, we practice, we get support to integrate the feelings that I have, to help our nervous system function as sort of one absorbing, welcoming aliveness. But as this grows, our capacity grows. And with this, our clarity, our sense of love, our obligation, our commitment to ourselves and to life as a whole grows. With more capacity comes more courage or conviction or clarity that this is how it works and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So we're coming to the end of our scheduled time, and if you have to go, you're welcome to leave. We are sort of complete for today. But I would also like to stay around just to hear questions or comments, just to see how this second meditation was for you and just how it is for you to hear this frame through which we're practicing. Yeah, Bernadette.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the overwhelmed phase. In that meditation, I realized how much resistance I have to including so much. And, yeah, I'm just very present to my resistance to certain feelings, to certain physical sensations, pain, etc. I'm seeing there's so much that I try and push out of my awareness, and one of my complaints is that I have a lot of, I don't have a lot of energy, and so that's not surprising, really.
Right.
Yeah, and so I'm heartened by the idea that the more I'm willing to include, including not having no energy, it's going to shift things for me. So, yeah, I welcome that.
Yeah, and again, so really most of my time is spent inviting people to express and get support for the parts of themselves which they have resistance to, because we don't resist for no reason. We usually resist things because they're overwhelming, or we haven't had the capacity to integrate them in the past. So it's intelligent to resist things. And even knowing that, just when you say what you're saying, like, this is the next thing to soften into. The resistance, as you're describing, this is the next thing that we welcome into this system. We feel it, we soften into it. This is how we grow our nervous system. This is how we have more capacity to be with those parts that we don't want to be with, or we haven't been able to be with yet. So there's no content that doesn't qualify as the next thing to soften into. We don't have to get past the resistance, just as I hear you saying.
Yeah, that resonates with me. Yeah. And part of my plan, when I planned for the year, one of the things I did was look at the things I want less of and the things I want more of. And, they were mirrors of each other. And, it's kind of interesting to reframe that and say, well, if I keep saying I want less of this stuff, then it's really just holding it in a stuck place.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share their experience?
Sure, I'll share again. Yeah, I had a really nice experience, or a moment of a really nice experience in that last meditation. It started off a bit familiar, of a bit of like the game of whack-a-mole, of kind of feeling awareness attend to the different parts of my experience, many of which felt contracted and uncomfortable in the beginning, and like again that kind of familiar moving from one place to another. And then I was just recalling what had been shared by everyone and sharing their experience, and this where we came to at the end of the last talk was this this idea of love and awareness, and love as being love having the ability to expand that field, and that kind of having that gravitational pull, and then that kind of was reflected back inward, and I was able to sit in a place where there was kind of like love towards self, and sort of like almost as seeing myself playing this game of whack-a-mole and then feeling compassion for myself of like, oh, I see you grappling with this, and I see the pain that you have in that, almost like I would as if I was kind of like seeing a child express
Yeah.
inability
Yeah.
to feel their emotions, and then kind of
Yeah.
also then felt that coming from the group as well, and extending out towards the group and everyone sharing and reflecting their own experiences, some of them challenging in sort of like this collective, I guess, the human experience, sort of like feeling compassion towards the human experience and us all trying to grapple with that. And it felt really beautiful. I had a really nice moment, kind of just like feeling into that. It
Yeah.
was fleeting, and I kind of ended up back in a sort of like an uncomfortable space again. But it was a really beautiful moment of that feeling that love and the expansive quality of that.
Right. Yeah, and just in grounding what you're saying, I just invite you to feel your words now.
Mm.
Just that you know this love or compassion inside yourself. And as we identify this, we just connect to it more.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's present. I can feel it.
And one of the beautiful things, I mean, you know this already, about the groups that we do, is that we invoke that sensation in each other when we share.
Mm.
Noticing how often the sharing of other people will bring that out of us.
Mm.
And in our personal practice, you can think of it very much like a parent, like there is a bigger whole self that welcomes, that holds all the parts, and that this is very like parental, or like it holds the smaller pieces and sees that there is this process that is available and they are included. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Anyone else want to share again about how you are now, or the meditation, or this idea that love says yes to the path of all energy, integrating into one field?
Blaise, you said something about the gravity that holds it together or something. Could you go back to that? What I'm referring to?
Yeah. So I can hold myself with tension, and progressively as we're meditating, this is one of the things we're going to notice more and more, is that I'll feel tension in my body, I'll feel tension in my heart, I'll feel tension in my jaw or my throat. The more I pay attention, the more I will feel how I'm holding myself. I hold energy. And as we soften, energy moves. And what we realize, energy doesn't just scatter into the four directions and go its own way. It creates a unity. It creates a oneness, a field of care. There is a force in the universe which holds energy together without effort, that claims and welcomes, that actively wants energy. It's a very maybe mysterious or esoteric force, if we call it that, but life wants all parts to be held together with a much more natural force, a gravity that's not effortful. So when we think about, again, as Jordy said, that the places that the group has taken him, he doesn't have to work. I mean, what I'm hearing you saying, you don't have to work to care or feel other people or hold them in your awareness. You want them to be here with you. There's this desire to have the pain or difficulty or beautiful experiences that other people have. You want them to be here with you. Again, I call this a natural force. I would call it love. Love is the desire, the natural desire, the natural property of energy to be together. Energy wants to be together. It's coming together in one field. And we may feel this is that it calls parts of ourselves or says, I want to be with you actively. It might say that about other people. It might express the pain in our heart. We might feel the pain of how life has not been like that, or how life is not like that now. The things that hurt at the level of energy are the places in which life is not unified, in which life cannot be together, in which I am not seen, or other people are not seen, or there is pain or difficulty in the world. Our body is like, our energy is this reactive field to how unified, how together life is. And I would call this impulse towards oneness of all energy as love. And it very much is reflected in our heart. You could call our heart a kind of epicenter for that kind of care and desire that we feel often very emotionally in our heart center. But the same principle applies to the rest of our energy field, whether or not it feels expressly like heart love or not. The same force is pulling all energy together into a oneness. How does that sound and feel to you, Jenna?
Yeah, I'm sitting with it and holding it. And, you know, in some ways, I'm just stuck back at the very beginning of what you said is like, I can really relate to noticing that.
Nope. She'll come back in a second. She'll be back. Okay. Just anyone else while we wait?
I just want to say I have to go.
Okay. I think we'll all come to a close here.
Hey, Blaze, I want to say one thing is
Yeah.
that I'm just really grateful for I love all the relational work and I see the essentialness of it. And this is also just a really interesting, supportive domain, and I'm grateful to have this as well. So thank you.
Yeah. I always intend to get back to this. We've gone so into relational world, and I always have wanted to get back to sort of the personal path. So I'm glad we're doing this. I'm glad you're here. So again, just between now and tomorrow, just inviting you to see what it's like for you to track your energy. And you can do this for many reasons. One, because I tell you to, but I think the two most powerful are because we're curious, or we feel this call, and also because there are difficult things coming up for us, and we don't have another choice but to learn how to be with them. Those are the particularly powerful forces in the universe. So Eric and Jenna share the internet, among other things. And I'm just wondering, is Jenna coming back to finish her question?
It looks like Eric left too, actually.
He
Yeah, I
came
didn't
back.
actually leave. I got
Oh, you're there again.
everything froze and dropped off, so I connected back on my cellular connection, so I can go check what happened to Jenna. I don't know.
I'm
Did
going to
she-
see.
Yeah.
I think we'll close. I'm going to see her in a little bit.
Yeah. Sounds good.
We'll work it out. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Blessings to all. We'll be back tomorrow to look at another facet of personal practice and consciousness. I'll put up the recording later this afternoon.